Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, today we are diving headfirst into two of the greatest stories ever told, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. To put this into perspective, the Mahabharata alone is roughly 10 times the length of the Iliad and the Odyssey combined. It's massive. But today we're not just recounting plots. We are looking at their shared DNA. We're going to examine the startling narrative parallels, the profound ethical complexities, and the deep spiritual lessons that pulse right beneath the surface of both epics. Get ready, because we're about to uncover how these ancient texts are fundamentally talking about the exact same human struggles. Okay, let's dive into this surface-to-depth journey. We'll be hitting the epic's shared DNA, the catalysts of the Great Wars, good fighters on the wrong sides, the gray areas of Dharma, guidance from the gurus, and finally, the ultimate battle of the mind. Starting off with Section 1, the epic's shared DNA and catalysts of war. Now, to really grasp what these stories are doing, we have to start with one foundational concept: Dharma versus Adharma. Righteousness against chaos, basically. And right off the bat, we see this incredible narrative parallel. In both epics, you've got dharmic royal heirs facing a completely unjust exile. In the Ramayana, Ram is denied his righteous throne and sent straight to the jungle. And in the Mahabharata, the Pandavas are denied their kingdom's share and, you guessed it, sent into exile. It's wild, right? Both sets of rightful rulers are stripped of everything and forced into the wilderness. This exile is exactly what sets the stage for the massive events that follow.
But here's the thing. Exile is just the setup. It's not the actual trigger for the catastrophic wars. The real catalyst in both of these stories, it's the horrific disrespect and abuse of women. In the Ramayana, Sita is abducted by Ravana. In the Mahabharata, Draupadi is brutally insulted by Dushasana. Both epics are drawing a massive line in the sand here, showing us that violating a woman's dignity is the absolute tipping point where full-scale war becomes 100% inevitable.
Now, we absolutely cannot look at Sita and Draupadi as just passive victims or plot devices. No way. These women held immense power and dignity. They were literal forces of justice. Sita showed unbelievable purity, courage, and this massive capacity for forgiveness through an unimaginable ordeal. And Draupadi? Her resolve for justice is legendary. She famously refused to tie her hair until Duryodhana's blood was drawn. Talk about resolve. Their strength is the righteous heartbeat driving both of these monumental wars.
Moving right along to Section 2, the shadows of Dharma and ethical complexities. Now, what's really interesting here is how the black and white morality of the beginnings starts to get super murky. Take the villains, for instance. They didn't just blindly stumble into doing evil. They had so many chances to turn back. Ravana was constantly advised by his brother Vibhishan and his wife Mandodari to just return Sita and avoid a war. And Duryodhana? He was regularly getting solid advice from the incredibly wise Vidura to just stop doing the wrong thing. But they completely ignored it. It's such a tragedy, right? Seeing corrupted minds stubbornly refuse the absolute best advice from the people closest to them. And this leads to some of the most heartbreaking micro-narratives you'll ever come across. We see these incredibly righteous, good people fighting on the side of Dharma, not because they're evil, but because they are completely trapped by loyalty. In the Ramayana, you have Indrajit and Kumbhakarna. Indrajit actually told his dad, Ravana, to stop the madness. But when Ravana said no, Indrajit fought and died for him as a loyal son. The Mahabharata is full of this too. Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Vikarna. These legendary figures knew their side was flawed, but their duty to their nation and benefactors locked them in. Good people fighting for the wrong side, just out of sheer loyalty. You really see this dynamic play out with the brothers in both stories. The forces fighting for Dharma, totally united. Ram's brothers, like Lakshman, had his back completely. The Pandavas were an absolute unified front. But the guys fighting for Adama, fractured. Ravana's brothers were super conflicted. Vibhishan even defected. And over with the Kauravas, brothers like Vikarna had massive internal moral conflicts about what they were doing. It's like evil is inherently divided by its own lack of righteousness. Okay, take a breath, because this next part kind of flips the script on what we think of as the good guys. Both epics feature literal divine avatars of Vishnu, Ram and Krishna, fighting to establish the right order of the world. But the texts don't sugarcoat it. Even avatars operate in some serious gray areas. And this brilliantly illustrates how establishing Dharma sometimes meant making highly controversial moves. In the Ramayana, Bali is killed through a hidden conspiracy. Ravana is taken down by a shot to his navel, his hidden weak spot. And then there's the incredibly tragic moment where Sita is asked to leave the palace. The Mahabharata is just as complex. You've got Krishna orchestrating the death of Karna, Ashwatthama, and taking out Bhishma. These were not clean, textbook victories. They were messy, deeply complicated actions required to basically ensure the survival of the righteous order.
Which brings us to Section 3, the inner battlefield, focusing on spiritual and philosophical lessons.
When you get down to the absolute deepest layer of these texts, the clashes of these massive armies are really just reflections of the internal battles happening inside all of us. And the biggest lesson? You can't win that internal war alone. External guidance is absolutely crucial. Ram was guided by gurus like Vasishtha and Vishwamitra. Plus, he had Hanuman's invaluable support. Arjuna was literally guided by Bhagavan Krishna himself. The teacher, the guru, is paramount. They give you the wisdom you actually need to navigate the pure chaos of life. Because without that guidance, your own mind becomes your biggest enemy. Characters in these epics didn't really fall to weapons. They fell to their own unguided, deviated minds. Dasharatha made wrong decisions that physically destroyed him. Ravana let his mind completely deviate, ignored all good advice, and brought down his entire kingdom. Duryodhana's impure mind flat out refused to listen to reason. It shows us that the biggest threat isn't some army outside the gates. It's what's going on in our own heads. So how do we fix that? The texts offer this incredible philosophical concept called viveka. Viveka is essentially your intellect. It's the discernment you use to make the right decisions, and it's supposed to be guided by your Atma Jyoti, your inner divine light. It means your mind can't just run wild chasing raw desires. It has to rely on viveka to actively choose dharma over adharma, moment by moment.
These two monumental epics aren't just ancient history, they're basically a mirror. So I want to leave you with this question to chew on today. Are you listening to your inner divine light to make the right choices? Or are you letting an unguided, deviated mind dictate your own destruction? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and we will catch you next time.